Welcome back to Week 7. I'm Billy Liucci.
And I'm Amanda Atwell, and this is Moving Goalposts.
And we're going to move a lot of them starting this week because football season is upon us, and it actually started on Saturday.
Yes, it did. And that was, I got some snippets of that game in Dublin, and they didn't look too pretty. It looked a little slippery there. I didn't watch the game because my brother was getting married yesterday, so had to kind of pay attention to some other things going on. He just missed real football season by a smidge, so we'll forgive him for there being one game yesterday.
Yeah, technically that falls under the umbrella of fall wedding. I guess really only if you are an Iowa State or Kansas State fan. Big 12 football. An actual Big 12 conference game was played yesterday or Saturday as this comes out. But the most interesting thing that you probably didn't catch, Amanda, first of all, 7-7 at halftime, really sloppy, really ugly. I think there were 4 first-half turnovers.
I did see the halftime score. I was like, ooh.
Yeah. It got exciting late, but the real excitement after the big Iowa State win, shout out Matt Campbell, the dude just stays at Iowa State and continue. Very impressive coach, but moving on. After the game, Avery Johnson, the K-State quarterback, his dad got into a fight.
I saw that clip. I didn't realize it was it his brother?
Got into a fight with his brother. So it was dad and brother. Imagine you're Avery Johnson. It's bad enough you lose your season opener. Then you go home or you get on your phone after the game and come to find out that your dad and brother got into a brawl in the muddy puddles of the streets of Dublin. So college football season's in full swing. But damn, we're not wasting any time in your neck of the woods this week. Aggies open up here at home with UTSA Saturday night. A few hours before that, though, a game that, if there was a college football Richter scale, would be a massive earthquake because this is one of the biggest. It might end up being the biggest game of the year. It's certainly the biggest opener, I think, quite possibly ever, because there's never been a 1 versus 2, and that's what we're getting. And it also happens to involve.
We don't get a pure 1 versus 2. It's a 1 versus 3 based on whatever poll you're looking at.
But
yeah, I think that's. It's a massive game, and I think you can say it's pretty massive historically as well.
Well, and there's so much going on here. You've got the defending national champs. You've got 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3, whatever you want to call it. You've got a game that was a classic last year in the college football playoff in the semifinals. Really, most people felt like that was the national championship game. So, gosh, this is as big as it gets. So we're about to dive right into all things Longhorns and Buckeyes. We're going to talk Aggies and Roadrunners, one of those tricky openers that you maybe wanted a week to, just be on your A game. But then we're going to also talk to a former Roadrunner, I guess a lifelong Roadrunner, proud Roadrunner, in Peter Burns of the SEC Network.
Yeah,
so that's
super exciting there.
Kind of the show today. But we're going to start off, though. Okay, you had a wedding. I've been traipsing around Yellowstone, Amanda. I've been seeing grizzlies.
I was getting pictures of moose, moose eye. How do you say it?
Moose. No, yeah, mama moose and baby moose. I was sending you
bears, all kinds of things.
I'm a big outdoorsman. You are now a fall wedding expert. Your brother got married this weekend. Congratulations. And
yes, super exciting.
Other congrats in order, actually, as we sit here today. Interesting news on the Atwell front. Would you care to
Yeah, this kind of popped up overnight. I think I first heard of it maybe 2-3 weeks ago, if that. So I will be joining the On Texas football family. We're going to start off doing a live stream 2 times a week. I believe I'm going to be doing Tuesdays and Wednesday nights with Jeff Howe and CJ Vogel. Super fun fan interactive show over there, and we're going to do that 2 nights a week until I get back from France, which I'm going in September for my birthday. Once I get back, it's going to be 4 nights a week, so it's going to be full steam ahead. Super exciting stuff, and I'm sure if you're a Longhorn fan, you might like listening to that show a little bit more than this one. But we'd love you both places either way.
They might, depending on how the season goes, they might like this one too. But hopefully hopefully that doesn't come to fruition.
Right now, they like this one because I have all of the weight in this one. So
yes, you have all the ammo.
They love both currently.
Yeah, and I think either way, you doing that makes this a hell of a lot more interesting too, because now it's now we're going Texags versus on Texas football.
Yeah,
so now,
site wars.
Yeah, as they say.
I mean,
shit's
at least it's
getting
two
real.
different fan bases having a site war and not two fan bases that are the same fan base, because that has happened as well.
Yeah, so now I'm representing one, you're representing the other. So the stakes just got a little higher. And hopefully, as the season goes on, I think we got some good momentum over here with this. It feels like just talking, just running into people and getting the feedback. And I think starting this week, and what we're going into right now, is it's going to get really interesting and entertaining. Starting this weekend in the Horseshoe, and a couple weeks from now, the Aggies are going to be in South Bend against the Fighting Irish. So let's get this started. Let's start with the kind of breaking news before we go into the Buckeyes and Longhorns.
All right. Yeah, we got the 9-game schedule. I think this is something a lot of us have been wanting for quite a while, and maybe it'll muffle some noise about the SEC gauntlet that apparently doesn't exist sometimes when it's a team you don't like. I'm not referencing anything specific here.
No one in particular. No gauntlet in particular.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a gauntlet if it's A&M, apparently. Even though if we looked at A&M's schedule last year, I wouldn't exactly call that a gauntlet either.
It wasn't. Yeah. But here's the thing. If you follow me, ever since Texas and OU joined, before this last season and me complaining about schedule strength or all of that, I've always been, as soon as they announced expansion, I thought they have to go to 9. It made too much sense. You guys haven't been in the league long enough to understand the frustration. The Texas fans a lot of times go, oh, A&M's only played Georgia once in 12 years. Yeah, that was a complaint from Aggies as well. Like, Texas A&M fans wanted to see the Georgia Bulldogs come to Kyle Field, just like you guys got that big game experience last season.
Yeah, I think it's the same for Texas. Like, I would love to see Alabama more often because that was such a fantastic, when we did the home and home series, I thought that was fantastic. Even though Texas lost at home and Alabama lost at home, it made for two fantastic football games.
It makes no sense. Look, A&M's in the first 13 years, they've played Kentucky once, they've played Georgia once, they've played South Carolina like 9 times, they've played Florida 4 or 5 times. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it. It's just too simple, and they did the right thing. You play 3 permanent opponents, and then you go 6 home and home, 6 home and home. In 4 years, every 4 years, you go to every venue, all 15 of them, and all 15 of those teams come to your home field. And you get the 3 permanent.
I don't think there should be these blow-off. You shouldn't be playing Samford in November. That's just, nobody wants to watch that. I'm sorry.
Does anybody want to watch San Jose in September, though, either?
Does anybody want to watch UTSA in September?
That's what I'm saying.
Or August?
Like, to
I
me,
guess it's August still.
To me, all of those are kind of the same. Like, I think the argument should be 4 is too many.
The 2 cupcakes are probably going to still exist regardless. I do like the whole scheduling teams like Ohio State and Michigan and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes the sport better, and I feel like it gives you a gauge of Big Ten SEC pretty early on, which is always good when we're having these back and forths with Big Ten and SEC superiority. So I always like having those. But they're always going to schedule 1 or 2 of those smaller games. And it helps the smaller schools a lot of times as well, gets them on a bigger platform.
Well, but where they're, I totally agree with you 1,000% here. And where we're going with this is, say A&M is an example, but there's a lot of other ones. They're playing 3, essentially most of the SEC teams are playing 3 cupcakes, to varying degrees. Most of the Big 12 teams were playing 3. Texas always schedules a marquee game, so they're usually playing 2. your cupcake now with Greg Sankey saying, hey, one of your non-conference games is going to come against a Power 4 team. So now your number of cupcakes, some are going from 4 to 2. Most are going from 3 to 2. So that's the key, is start getting rid of these cupcake games. I love that rule by Sankey. And I saw some people, Amanda, saying, oh, the SEC bent the knee to the Big Ten. That might be the dumbest thing I've heard this offseason.
We're sitting here yapping about schedule strength and being critical about different schedule strengths, but wouldn't you rather have a stronger schedule? Maybe you slip up once or twice, but you're judged based on that stronger schedule versus just having another blowout 52-7 victory over some FCS team.
What Greg Sankey just did, right? This is what they waited until the college football playoffs announced their new criteria in terms of evaluating contenders for the field and what it takes to get in. And that strength of schedule component has changed to the point now where by adding a 9th game, you're not only going to force the ACC to add a 9th game, that's going to happen, while the Big Ten was looking at the current playoff setup and going, Kurt Signetti, we're going to drop Virginia. Some of these other Big Ten teams are dropping these big non-conference games down the road. Well, guess what? You did it too soon, because now comes the new criteria. You're going to have to strengthen up, or you're going to lose a spot as a 10-2 Big Ten team to a 9-3 SEC team. So they're going to have to change their path completely now. All the SEC was doing was waiting to see what the playoff selection committee did with the criteria. They adjusted accordingly. It's going to bring X number of SEC games to their new TV deal. So every school in this conference is about to get a hell of a lot more money by playing an extra SEC game a year, and you force the ACC's hand. He's playing chess, and the SEC's playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. And that is one thing I'm glad to see, like, Texas and Oklahoma fans starting to realize. That was one of the things I'd always talked about, is this league stays one step ahead, even ahead of the Big Ten. And speaking of the Big Ten, right, here we go.
Before we speak of the Big Ten, shouldn't we speak of our sponsor?
That would be good. Yes. I spoke of our sponsor a lot this weekend, actually, on Saturday.
I spoke of the sponsor a lot this weekend as well.
Oh, yeah, you had it at the wedding. How did that go over?
I brought a bottle of this stuff to the mimosa bar at the wedding because the bride doesn't sit well with champagne, and she needed a little bit of liquid courage to get down the aisle. Not because she didn't want to marry my brother. She's the type that doesn't like having all of the attention on herself. When I tell you, this poor girl, because there was an elevator that took us up to the ceremony. The elevator opens for the bride. She is sobbing, like ugly crying, right before she's about to walk down the aisle, having a panic attack. And we had just funneled another shot down her throat.
More La Casa.
She finally, her dad calmed her down. She got it together. She walked down the aisle without passing out, and they are now happily married and on their way to Paris. So congrats to the happy couple. And La Casa had a role in making sure she made it down the aisle.
An assist. So yeah, if you need to get through a football game this fall, if you need it for your tailgate, La Casa
I'll be
Tequila.
bringing some to the tailgates at San Jose State. So if you see me, ask me to make you a margarita. I'll make you one.
Perfect. She's going to be a roaming margarita machine.
Roaming margarita machine. I'll bring some limes just on my body.
One more thing before we move on, the 9-game schedule. You know that means permanent opponents, right? The permanent opponents, I think I'm 99% certain who they are on your end.
I think we've always been pretty certain who they would be on our end. It's pretty, these are the games that Texas wanted when they moved back to the conference, the games that they lost from previously. Getting back Arkansas, getting back A&M, and always having OU. Those are, Texas is blessed to have 3 rivalries like that. And just having those back in a permanent position would be wonderful. If that is, in fact,
that will be. I've got it on good authority. That will be, and then everybody's assuming for A&M, Texas and LSU, and I don't expect in any world for that to change. But everyone else is assuming Mississippi State.
Why would that be? That's intriguing.
It's just kind of, if you play it all out and you start plugging in, it kind of it almost like naturally falls into it. And they do talk about the potential.
There you go. Right now you get a permanent cupcake.
Well,
for the time being.
Mississippi State and Arkansas are about the same. But I do think over time, I feel like Arkansas would be better, but really just because they have been, but not. Since A&M's joined the SEC, I think they're 12-1 against Arkansas and maybe 7-5 against Mississippi State. So one's been a lot tougher.
Arkansas has had a couple blips of successful years, but nothing that stuck.
A ton of history, though. That's why that Texas and Arkansas rivalry is so great to have back. But I'll tell you what, everyone assuming that it's going to be Mississippi State, I would say, don't put the cart ahead of the horse. I personally have heard Missouri a few times here lately, too, which would make sense because Missouri is still regional. It's a former Big 12 opponent. Not that that was a long-lasting thing either. But anyway, just don't assume it's one school that starts with M and not the other. That's all I'm going to say. It may very well end up being Missouri. Moving on, and if we do go to 9, Amanda, you do know that if we go to 9,
he'll find a way to say that the SEC gauntlet still doesn't exist.
Okay, we're going to move on to we're going to move on. No, I didn't.
I'll save that for later.
I'm not even, we're moving on to, what are we talking about? This little Ohio State-Texas game?
Just a little Ohio State-Texas game.
Let's talk about this little game. Let's get the hype train going here. Not going. I know
the hype train has left the station.
It left the station a long time ago, probably about the time Sark and the Longhorns and Ryan Day and the Buckeyes walked off the field in the Cotton Bowl. And it's been kind of building ever since the Buckeyes won it a week later. I think
Sark started planning for this game the day after that game happened. I think he got into the drawing room the day after that game happened.
Yeah, and we've talked about really how big it is. There's been a little back and forth this week to add to it. Not that it really needs it, but it's been pretty funny when we, Colin Simmons posted on his IG the picture of Julian saying when he was named the starter, right? Like he's the target.
That was 100% trash talk. I know you put in the notes does this fall under the trash talk umbrella? 1,000% trash talk.
The difference between me and you and people on social media is you and I like embrace that kind of stuff. Like we're like, bring it on. You better back it up, but let's up the stakes here. But somebody's going to back it up and somebody's not, and that makes it fun. So Ohio State.
And I mean, you say it's bulletin board material, and Ohio State came right back with their own bulletin board material. It's all fair in love and war.
They post the picture of the Ohio State defender standing over the downed Gunnar Helm, who was fine, by the way.
I do have an opinion on this. You said it's a great. What was your quote exactly?
I said it was a great college football picture. If you didn't have a
fan
rooting
of either team.
Yes.
Well, that's coming from a person of bias who hates the team on the ground. And also, I mean, I've seen a lot of college football photos. Yes, it sent the message it needed to. It was a pretty mid photo. It was, it was pretty out of context. He could have been holding the football.
I'm just shocked that, and it was a good play.
You can't even see his face. Like, you can't even see what was happening.
So you think I just said that because it was the Texas player down? That's when I tweeted that was your reaction. Like, here goes Billy, because he really can't believe this is a good picture.
I think that's what it was interpreted as across the board.
Well, we know one person that interpreted it, and I know I'm probably.
Oh, I just got a text from her about that as well.
If you guys win that game, I'm dread. I might mute certain people's notifications.
I'll find a picture to make sure to respond to that tweet with again. Or when we beat A&M in November.
I'm worried about you and Peyton on that front. What surprised me this week, though, when I said that, everybody was posting pictures in reply of like the A&M Texas game. Not one person leaned into the picture that both of y'all actually have hit me with several times since November 30th, which was the goal line stand. People were off
picture.
their game a little bit on that one.
Well, I was off my game, and I have an excuse. I was at my brother's wedding, and I would have been much more on it if I was not.
That is fair. That is fair.
Having to walk down an aisle yesterday. So.
Well, what do you think of this one? Like, let's real quickly go into this because, man, this is like we talked. I don't think the loser. It doesn't kill the loser either way. That is the one weird aspect of such a big game in this sport, right? Like with the new playoff, it doesn't kill you because even both of these teams could even lose another one. And because of where they're at today and because of the brand and because of the schedule strength, I said it, they're both getting in at 10-2 even. So it's not the end of the world for either team, but damn, does it feel like just a clash of the Titans on Saturday at the Horseshoe.
I do think that Ohio State has more to lose here because when you talk about the home field advantage aspect of it, if Texas comes in and wins on their home field like they did against Michigan last year, I feel like that's a bigger statement than if Ohio State just takes care of business on their home field as the reigning national champions.
Yeah.
Regardless of the rankings, I mean, I have said previously, you can toss the top 5 up and jumble them up and put them down, and many people probably wouldn't have complaints about that. So I think Texas coming in and making the statement and winning in a very hostile environment, even though it's an 11 a.m. game, which will make it easier apparently. I think that would make a much bigger statement than if Ohio State just does what they're supposed to do on a home field with a home field advantage. Though that home field advantage did not bode well for them when they were playing Michigan last year.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see how that goes.
I think what I'm most fascinated to see in this one is, does one team win? I don't think you're going to see any kind of blowout, but does one team just clearly look like the better football team? I think if they both play and it's either sloppy or well played and it's a close game, then we just kind of all go, okay, let's for those two programs, let's get on with the season. We know they're going to be playoff team. You're going to feel good about that. Obviously, we don't know anything, but you're going to walk away, okay, those two teams are going to be fine. What I'll be interested in is if one team handles the other, if one quarterback, because that's the big storyline, obviously, if one of the new quarterbacks struggles, throws 2 or 3 picks, and the other one plays lights out, like, what does that do? You know, that's what I want to see. Is there anything extreme to come out of this game? That would be the kind of the, oh, wow, good or bad. If there's something extreme from the Buckeyes or Longhorns. Amanda, I know if we'd have done the show last year, I said repeatedly I thought Texas was going to go in and handle Michigan because I just didn't think. And now I probably tweeted that. Oh God, you're going to find a tweet now, aren't you? Okay. Okay. That's fine. You're going to find it but with that said, I repeatedly said on air that I thought Texas was going to beat Michigan because Michigan lost not only so much of their team, but Jim Harbaugh. They were not the same team. Ohio State brings back Ryan Day. They bring back Caleb Downs. They bring back Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate in that receiving core. Like, they're a top 5 team, and I think it's legit. Here's why I like your Longhorns in this one, and I'm just going to say this, and this is both teams lost a lot on the offensive line. Texas, to me, brings back so much more on that defense, and yes.
Wow, I wonder who told you that.
You were right. You were right.
Once again, I need this printed on a shirt. You were right. Billy Liucci to Amanda Atwell.
You were right, Amanda. You
2025
can quote
preseason.
Me. But the more I look, and like here's my matchup that's very problematic for Ohio State. It's their line, which returns 3 starters. One guy who's never taken a snap at center, I don't believe. It's moving from guard.
I mean, that's concerning because, I mean, at least center that's stepping in for us, he played behind an amazing center for the past 4 years, but he has taken snaps at center. So,
So let's just say this, like both of here are your starts on the O-line for these two teams, right? Here are your starts. I looked this up.
I think I looked this up and sent it to you months ago, but you might have just, that amnesia kicks in sometimes.
Yeah, why did you accuse me? Why do you keep saying I have amnesia? Just
because you do.
Is that an old joke, or is that just because that's when I get
I mean,
when I'm
everybody
struggling?
can have their memory problems.
Okay, DJ Campbell. Okay, here's Ohio State starts 21-16, 6-2-4. Texas is pretty much in the same boat, even a little less. But what Texas brings back in the front seven, led by Hill and Simmons, and then obviously the other guys we've talked about a lot, I just think that is a matchup problem that is going to make it very hard for Ohio State to run the ball without their two great backs from last year that are gone. I think that's going to make it put that much pressure when they're behind the chains on Julian Sayin early in his career against that defense where they know he's got to pass and pin their ears back. I think that Texas defensive front versus the Ohio State offensive line is where the game's won, and I think that's where Ohio State won the game last year. It's going to be flip-flopped, and I think on the flip side, Arch is just going to have a little more time to throw. Texas is going to successfully run the ball with the backs that they return, not lose. That, to me, is where this game's won. I'm picking Texas in a close one.
I do think obviously the O-line is a concern for Texas, but I do think the O-line even though they're not returning a lot of starters, they're returning players that do have experience. I mean, you think of players like Trevor Gooseby, who stepped up critically last year. I've said this time and time again, stepped in critically during the A&M game last year and for Kelvin Banks and looked like nothing different, like nothing had changed on that O-line. So just seeing players do stuff like that and players that don't have a ton of experience stepping into those roles of those really experienced guys, it kind of lets you know that they might be doing something right in training their next round of offensive linemen. So I honestly agree with you there. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I do think it'll be closer for comfort. But obviously I would pick Texas going into this one just because I got to pick Texas for this. There's certain games previously where I would not pick Texas, but I'm picking them here for the same reasons.
Yeah, and then A&M UTSA, when we're going to talk to Peter Burns in a minute, our favorite road runner. Don't debate whether he or not he's the most famous road runner. We'll ask him in a second. But Ohio State, A&M UTSA, Kyle Field, 6 o'clock, season opener. Hopefully you get a look. UTSA lost a lot on defense, so hopefully this A&M offense shows what they showed in fall camp. We'll get to that later. UTSA, though, right, Amanda?
They're an interesting little team. Jeff Traylor has kind of turned them around a bit, has them poking in the right direction. I don't know if they're running in the right direction quite yet, but they've had some ups and they've had some downs. But yeah, it's another one of those test cases of a high school coach going to college football and seeing what they can do. Same thing with that up at Tech.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's why they were both on the cover of Dave Campbell's when I worked there, because we had some high school coaches taking over at the college ranks, and they both had what you could consider success for those kinds of schools. We'll learn way more about McGuire this year, I feel like. But
Traylor,
I think A&M has to win this one handily. I don't think there's any question of who you should pick going into this game. They have to win a game like this handily. They can't let a team like UTSA give them trouble. And but UTSA can be snippy. Texas has played them in the past and have not enjoyed the first half of those games.
Well, we're not talking about baseball. We're talking about football.
But. No, I know. I'm talking about football as well.
I know.
I think it was a year before
a couple years ago, yeah.
We played them at home, and I was there, and I was like, what is going on in this game? And eventually the game was won, and it was all over, but it wasn't an enjoyable – it wasn't, those non-conference games that are supposed to be just the free, easy, fun ones. It did not feel free, easy, and fun. So
yeah, A&M.
We'll see how they can handle Kyle Field.
A&M plays non-conference games against Utah State and Samford, and I think this one is on a different level. He's done a great job. Traylor has. I've always been a big fan of him, his brothers, their O-line coach, what they did at Gilmer way back in the day. He's got a nice program there at UTSA. They have done some really nice things, and I think garnered a ton of support there in the area, as you know, covering it. But this team has some offensive firepower, and I think it makes it interesting when you're
Especially
talking
with
about
Texas A&M's. I feel like Texas A&M defense is the main thing. This is one of the biggest question marks for you.
Well, and particularly last year, what they gave up in the passing game, and they weren't getting after the quarterback. So I think that is where it'll be an interesting test for Mike Elko and the Aggies as he stepped in to take over that defense. You've got Owen McCown. There's some ties to A&M there. His uncle is Randy McCown, who played here, was a good friend of mine, was actually the quarterback in that bonfire game in 99 in the year in 98 when A&M won the Big 12 title. Son of Josh McCown, longtime NFL QB. He had a nice season last year. He's a hell of a quarterback that you're facing in an opener with kind of a retooled secondary. And he's got a great, really productive receiver in Devin McEwen. And they've got a tailback coming back that in the last 2 years, 1,300 yards and 18 touchdowns. So it'll be a nice test. But like you said, Amanda, A&M needs to, even if it's not run them out from the gates, they need to pull away in this one.
Yeah, I don't think it should be
in a race
close. I think
question.
it needs to be like a 20-point deficit minimum.
And interestingly enough, and by the way, that's the spread. So interestingly enough, there was a roadrunner on our upstairs balcony.
Is that an omen?
But it also overlooks the practice field. So it makes me wonder. I've never seen a roadrunner
Did
in
they
College
send
Station
an actual
ever.
roadrunner to spy on Texas A&M? Did you check for a camera on this bird?
I mean, I'm coming from Yellowstone. I'm seeing roadrunners. Maybe I'm just.
What is with you in the wildlife recently?
I don't know, but we got Peter Burns on deck. Let's take a cut into Peter, and then we're going to come back and kind of wrap things up with some fun and also talking about some polls and predictions. So, all right, everyone. On this side, a man that needs no introduction, good friend, longtime friend, even though he missed Yellowstone trip this week, but he was in San Antonio. Peter Burns.
I didn't get the invite, Billy. We've already gone over this. I mean, I wasn't going to bring up dirty laundry to start the podcast and this whole deal, but my goodness, I would have gone had I actually got the invite, but I just checked my phone. I mean, I didn't see any email,
That's
text
kind of
or
rude,
email.
Billy.
Hey, me, you, and CD next summer, Yellowstone. We'll bring Amanda and Grant. You'll love Grant, and we'll have a great time.
I'm in.
All right, so we're into college football. Peter, Amanda, Peter. I don't know if y'all have ever met.
Nice to meet you. Pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Funny story, Amanda. When you posted that damn picture from that A&M Texas baseball game, I get a text with a screenshot of it from PB, and he said,
Some of my best work.
He said,
personally.
"This is amazing."
It was a great.
Well, I mean, listen, that's what we want. I mean, again, whenever we found out that Texas was coming into the conference, I'm like, give me all the rivalries, give me all the hatred, give me all the message boards that just like have unfounded rumors, and I mean, every part of it, just it's exactly what I want.
Yeah.
And so, Amanda had that perfect picture, and now we're here. So
that's why I started this show too.
Yeah, that was
bringing
kind of
people together.
That was kind of
in a weird way.
The impetus, the driving force was like, let's get this rivalry going, and we needed to be actual rivals, so it's perfect. Friends and rivals, just like always. We tried that rivalry thing with LSU, Peter. We couldn't quite get it there, but there's a budding rivalry between the Longhorns and Buckeyes, it feels like. And this weekend, biggest game in the country. Just take us into your thoughts on maybe the magnitude and how you see that thing going.
It's interesting because, and I know we'll probably talk a little bit later about LSU Clemson, is that when I look at the kind of, I mean, it's a perfect word for it, magnitude of Texas, Ohio State, it's like the opening tee shot of a 4-round major, of the U.S. Open. It's going to be really, really difficult. And yet I don't see anything coming out of this in which, unless it's a blowout either way, right? Unless Texas goes up there and absolutely whoops the Buckeyes' ass and it's, 35-10, it's just dominant. I don't think it changes the narrative. And even the flip side of it, unless all of a sudden Ryan Day's defense is great and Arch Manning just looks like a deer in the headlight, like he did a little bit in the Georgia game in that first half, where both of them are on the sideline kind of befuddled. then I don't think it really changes anything. Like, people keep asking, how do you see this game playing out? I'm like, we were talking about Arch, who's played 2 games, Julian Salen, the new quarterback over for the Buckeyes. I'm not necessarily sold on him 100%. I think both of these coaches are trying to figure out exactly what they have. I would much rather trust Arch and Sark's offense right now, even though I think the defense is playing probably even better than the offense. I think it's a coin flip game. And I hate saying that. I like taking more of a big stance, but I literally think it's a 28-27, who the hell knows type game.
Amanda?
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah. My question for you was, where do you think the mismatches could come out in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily sold on Ohio State's offensive line or even with Julian coming off the bat. I mean, as a true starter. I mean, I think, and it's kind of a flawed number because there's probably could have been 4 or 5 quote unquote #1 teams to start the year. But I think the record now of quarterbacks in college football and in major college football getting their first start ever against the #1 team in the country, they're 0-18.
Wow.
And it's not going to be easy. And again, I think everybody that I've talked to over in Austin about this team is, yes, they're fired up about Arch, they're fired up about Ryan Wingo, a bunch of these playmakers, but defensively, where a lot of people thought they were going to lose so much, they think that front 7 is probably as good as it was last year, which is kind of scary to me, or at least, and I know defense is ahead of offense early in the season, but that's where I want to see them make a difference early. And I just don't know if a true starter or making his first start is going to be ready for that moment.
That was my biggest concern. Amanda and I actually just talked about a lot of what you said. It's interesting. From the blowout, it's kind of the only way you get a true dramatic takeaway either way, all the way to this offensive line thing. Texas lost a lot on their own line too, but I don't think they're going up against a defensive front 7 like what Texas has with Hill and Simmons leading the way, and a lot of other dudes, including one of your former UTSA Roadrunners who can get after the passer. So I think, and then there's also the interesting guy in this equation that no one really is talking about is Matt Patricia. He takes over a national championship defense that returns 3 starters. And, his resume and pedigree is incredible. It's all NFL. How does that play? That's going to be, you've got Sark and a still young, inexperienced quarterback. And I wouldn't know about to say young, but in Arch Manning versus Patricia. A little wild card in that one, but I'm with you. I think that Ohio State O-line versus that Texas D-line, Amanda, as you said, like that's one of the mismatches.
Well, but also, think about it too. Everybody, as much as we've talked about, Arch's going to be a Heisman, on the flip side of it, that people are like, well, he's only started 2 games, but he's also been in the system for 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like that's not. I mean, this is not, hey, he just got to campus type deal. So if you're asking me where there's the edge, there is the edge of going against a whole different Buckeyes defense, and really even the play calling for defense is going to be different with Patricia out there. So that's where I think where we see the benefit is in some of the teams now, that if you are able to keep your coordinators and your play callers, you have such a huge advantage over all of these other teams that don't. Right. I mean, like, I think Alabama struggled so much because, you go back and look at Jalen Milroe, he had a bunch of different offensive coordinators during his time over at Alabama, and then finally they got Ryan Grubb over there, but that's even going to be new for, Ty Simpson and whatnot. So the fact that everything's kind of set in place right now for Texas gives that a little bit of a benefit, but I think it washes it out because the fact the game's played up in Columbus.
Newness at quarterback is a national story and an SEC story this year, and I think that's going to, we've talked a lot this summer. You and I have, Amanda and I have, like, that's going to, when we see everything shake out, that's what's going to, that's why I look at teams like Penn State, Clemson, even Arizona State out of the Big 12, and you sit there and go, who are going to be the teams left standing when this playoff field is selected? And I think you're a lot safer kind of leaning in the direction of those teams because it's such an advantage that a lot of teams just don't
those are
have.
known commodities, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the whole deal. And Amanda, even for Texas, even though Arch is somewhat of an unknown commodity, the fact that Quinn did get a little bit banged up and he has those opportunities to play in a couple of those games and get ready for the whole week. Like, there's a difference between never being the starter and then becoming the starter, right? Or as opposed to you got a couple of games underneath your belt where you knew that you were going to be the guy all week long. that's a huge advantage for those Garrett Nussmeyers, the Lenore Sellers of the world, and of course even for Arch going up there to Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, in the games that Arch was the guy in, we're not obviously great opponents, but at the same time, it's more experience than a lot of the other guys have. So it's just a different level of an advantage.
Yeah, we talk to quarterbacks all the time. I mean, McElroy would tell us over at SEC Network and Jordan Rogers, they're like, there's a certain thing of being on a roster and then all of a sudden knowing that you're the dude. And some guys are made for it and some guys aren't. So the fact that you got Arch a couple of starts underneath them, same thing with Marcel Reed. Like the fact that Reed became that starter and he's ready to go. I mean, that it's the prep, really. That's what surprises me the most about the guys saying, like, the games part flows pretty simple. It's just you're just drinking out of a fire hydrant when you know you're going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And at least Arch has been there before.
Yeah, no, listen, I think you mentioned in Marcel Reed's interesting, too, as we shift over to your alma mater, the UTSA Roadrunners. And I know you were down there this weekend. Did they sweat? Oh.
Beat me. I'm torn, man.
I was going to say, did they swag you out?
This is like, my road runners where I played college golf at, and then, obviously I've got such an affinity for A&M and all the times that I've spent up there and stuff. And honestly, I'm fascinated with this matchup because I really thought Jeff Traylor was going to be the guy. I thought whenever there was, when the Stoops thing didn't come together, I thought, man, Traylor I think that's the guy that's going to hit the ground running. And when Elko got it, I wasn't necessarily surprised. It made a whole hell of a lot of sense. I mean, he's a football guy through and through. And so I know that there's a lot of, not angst, but I know that there's a lot on Jeff Traylor's mind to be like, I want to go in there and whoop their ass because I want to show that I should have been the guy, not Elko. And that's not a hatred towards Elko because I think there's a huge amount of respect.
That's a competitor that's trying to move up the ladder.
Yeah,
that's exactly what that is. You'd be the same way. She'd be the same way. We're all. Look, I've followed Traylor forever. Him and his brother, their family. Like, his son was a GA here. Really got know him really well. Think the world of him. He was a walk on at Texas, or he was at Texas too. To me, I think Traylor is one in between step away from having one of these big jobs. Like, with the timing of A&M, I don't know now, but like Arkansas, with him being an East Texas guy, that would feel like a nice natural fit one day. But I feel like there's one in between, maybe not. These type games are the way you fast track that, right? Like, you give A&M a scare, you upset a team like A&M. Obviously, that would be. You mentioned Marcel and those 7 starts. 7 starts, go into the offseason, just like Arch, knowing you're the guy, when that wasn't the case a season ago. That's not the case for Sayin. That's not the case for C.J. Carr. That's not the case even for Jackson Arnold down at Auburn, where there's these QB battles going on. Marcel Reed was the guy throughout the end of last year. He's the guy this offseason. I think it's starting to show. Low-key, nice quarterback battle with him and Owen McCown this weekend. But I think this is an important game for Marcel and this offense, which should be and needs to be a lot more explosive under Colin Klein in year 2.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's also part of the deal is I was so fired up whenever Colin Klein got to College Station because I looked at the amount of success that he had. Did you give somebody who, if you could develop him as a passer, Marcel is exactly what you need in college football to just have that X factor. I mean, I still have nightmares as an LSU fan about what he did after Nussmeier turned it over a couple times, and that game just flipped on a switch, early in the season. So, and listen, McNown's good over at UTSA. I think when you start looking at, the top 22 players on the roster, UTSA and A&M are fairly competitive. Mm-hmm. The difference is A&M's got 100 guys that can play football. UTSA probably has 40 guys, right? And so the idea there early in that game is I'm going to be really kind of fascinated to see is how aggressive Colin Klein and Elko and Marcel are early in this game, as opposed to a chess match. Because the last thing you want to do is go out there and give them any kind of breath early, right?
Yeah.
I think you just want to lean on them, get them tired, and then really, it's the second half where you can kind of take off on those guys.
You're saying like an MMA fight where you ground and pound, wear them down, and then drag them out in the deep waters late.
Yeah, I mean that would be the MO of Elko football all season long. To be honest with you, is the fact of whenever you can out roster a team, is you don't need to do anything stupid, because that's the only way that they're going to get in trouble in this game. If all of a sudden Reed turns the ball over, or they get kind of cute with the play calling, like keep it simple. Your roster's better. And survive. It's a survive and advance type game. I mean, go back to that. I watched UNLV and Idaho State a couple of days ago with Dan Mullen. I'm like, it's not going to look pretty, but a win's a win, and that's what these guys need. But I just know that Traylor's going to be exactly. I mean, I can't wait to watch. They should have another camera just on Jeff Traylor during that entire game.
Yeah,
I'd pay pay-per-view for that one.
I'm just excited to see that. I really am excited to see this offense, and I want to see. I think it's a nice first game test for an A&M defense that. Reloaded, or do they reload, or are they rebuilding on the on the defensive line? And then with Mike Elko taking the reins over defensively, how much different does that look? So those are my two things I'm looking at.
And I want to see real quick on that one. What's the wide receiver core going to look like? Now that you lose Noah, who are the guys that you're really? I mean, because A&M's always had dudes. It's just a matter of, can the quarterback stay damn healthy to get on the ball?
Yeah,
right.
I think these dudes. I'll tell you what.
That's what I want to watch.
My biggest takeaway watching this football team, and Amanda and I will talk about it in a minute. The dudes at receiver are different than they have been. I really like the speed and explosion ability to get open. Mm-hmm. Amanda, what do you got?
I'm good. I think I'm ready to go. I'm ready for it to start. I mean, we've been waiting for this all season.
Amanda, you're right. It's like the longest August. I tweeted it a couple of days ago. I was like, this is the 107th day of August. And that's honestly why I always take off a week in middle of August.
Me too.
Because I'm so sick and tired of the SEC Network stuff. And it's like, here's the fourth show in a row that we've done. Who's the third best quarterback? I'm like, I don't freaking know. Like I've looked at it a million times. And again, I think it's even more so this year. We're more fired up about it because everybody's in the dark. Mm-hmm. Nobody really gave us any kind of information in the spring. We didn't have spring football games. In the fall, everybody's very careful about putting out information.
Yeah.
And so for us, this is probably as naked as we have ever felt going into a season because the amount of information. And you combine with everybody's got 30 to 40 new players between the transfer portal. So I mean, that's the big issue.
And I got to say, I'm just so burnt out on talking season at this point. It's just, it's something new, ridiculous every time I get onto Twitter these days. I'm just like, can we just start this already? Can we just have some games to go off of to talk about instead?
Well, before we go, we do have a game that PB is definitely going to want to give us a quick rundown on. How do you think, what is it, 4 season openers in a row that I've tuned in? They've lost 5 in a row?
Yeah, you go back and look at 2020 Mississippi State. Then they ended up losing to, I can't remember, it was Florida State twice.
USC.
UCLA 1 year, and then USC. Yeah.
So here's my
not that
deal.
I'm bitter, or not that that's a scar at all, but
it is regularly scheduled programming with LSU. I watch the Whiskey and Wine Show with T-Bob and Moscona after the season opener. And I watch it every time LSU comes to Kyle Field now, the last 4. And I never watch it when A&M goes to Baton Rouge, where they're heading this year. But the opener is always, it's been a problem. They got a tough, probably one of the 2 biggest games in college football this weekend. How do you see that one going? I think an amazing quarterback battle. You talk about quarterback battles. One of the best of the year with Klubnik and Nuss going at it.
Yeah, and I think so much is on the line for both of these teams. Like for Texas and Ohio State, I can see either of them losing the game, and I'm like, that's fine. Yeah. Like you still probably going to be at least a 10-2 squad. For LSU, Brian Kelly's taking a whole different approach to this one. Liucci, like it used to be, hey, it's another game. We got 12 of them on the season. They're like, F that. Like it is all about Clemson. We're going to put paw prints in this weight room. We're getting behind it. I mean, And I like that mentality because it hasn't felt that way. There haven't been a sense of urgency out of Brian Kelly since he got there, and I feel that. I mean, I called him right before we had media days, and literally he picks up and he goes, I know what you're about to say. Yes, we need to win the big game, right? Like we need to win the opener. Like he was leaning into it as well. And so I think the biggest difference, kind of real quickly on this, is LSU has a legit defense now. This will be the best LSU defense we've seen in Baton Rouge since before 2019. You know, even when they won the national championship with Burrow, they had more of a speed bump defense. They got healthier late into the season, but they didn't have it in 2021, 22, 23, 24. And this is the first time Blake Baker's got a bunch of dudes. When they lost that kid, Bryce Underwood, to Michigan, they didn't have to pay him the $8 million. It shifted everything. And they went on a quote-unquote spending spree, and they got the dudes that they needed to be in the college football playoff. I still think they're a playoff team. I think they beat Clemson, but I think Klubnik's going to have a good day. I think Clemson ends up losing that game, yet they still run the table the rest of the season, win the ACC, and I think Cade Klubnik might be the Heisman Trophy winner. Like, if I had to put a wager on it, he's where I put my money on it because I don't see anybody in the ACC giving Klubnik and Clemson any kind of a run. I just think LSU they're built different this year.
I'm with you on Klubnik. Here's the deal. If you tell me they're going to beat LSU, I might go right over there to your neck of the woods and head over to Lake Charles or whatever I got to do and put in a one-game-in bet on Klubnik and think he's only going to get better from there. He might need that signature kind of win. I know you don't necessarily anymore, but damn, would he – I probably should do it now that I'm talking because he's going to – if he beats LSU, he'll thrust in there into the top. But, Peter, a huge weekend. I know you're busy. You're going to be busy this week. I look forward to joining you guys. I know we talked about it. So catching up with you and Chris later on. And thank you so much for joining us this week, buddy.
Well, thanks for having us.
And thank you for not inviting me on your trip. So that's something Amanda would never do. So Amanda, I appreciate it. You're a much better friend of the podcast here than Billy.
I wouldn't rub a trip in your face.
I mean, literally, he was just like, I don't want to brag about it, but it's the greatest trip I've ever been on. And he's like, you should have gone. And I go, I never got a text message.
Amanda won't rub a trip in your face, but she'll rub every bad tweet you've ever come up with.
I mean, you put them out there. That's your own fault.
Yeah, that's your ass.
She did find some on you that were actually just spot on.
I was like, I can't find anything on him. He just has great takes. So maybe you should learn something from him, Billy.
You had some great ones. I was like, he nailed that.
Amanda, I like you. Billy, you're on the fence.
All right. Appreciate it, buddy. All right, let's keep it moving. Something Peter was talking about, by the way, quarterbacks. We've talked about a ton of them. This is the week of, there's a lot centered around the matchups we've already talked about at quarterback. We kind of mentioned Auburn, Gus Malzahn and his triple quarterback possibility. We said they might play three at Baylor this weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hate that. If that was my team, I would not be happy with it.
I said Gus Malzahn, by the way. It's Hugh Freeze.
Huh?
I said Gus Malzahn, but it's Hugh Freeze. They change coaches so much over there at Auburn. I can't keep
Who knows? But yeah, I would hate that situation. I just feel like when you go in with a dual quarterback situation, even where nobody's named the head starter, it's like you need that leadership position, that guy. And this is one of the reasons I think Sark had such a long leash for Quinn last year, whether it was to his detriment at times or not, is because you want to tell the team that you trust this leader.
Yeah.
And yes, he probably let it go a little bit too far at times last year when Quinn was obviously either hurting or just not having a day. But at the same time, it paid off more times than it didn't. Texas went 2 rounds in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
So, but this kind of situation, it's just you're leading into the fact that, the other team won't know what we're throwing at them, but do we know what we're throwing at the rest of our offense with these 3 different quarterbacks that probably have 3 different play styles? It's not something that I would be particularly confident in.
That game gets so interesting to me, and it's coming up this Friday night in Waco, and Baylor does have a quarterback. Baylor has a damn good quarterback in Sawyer Robertson. Former Aggie OC Jake Spavital at the helm there. Dave Aranda can score a massive win for Baylor, a massive win for the Big 12. They got a couple of cracks at SEC teams with Arizona State and Mississippi State. The Sun Devils last year took them on. So those two, with Sawyer Robertson and Levitt, I'll take those two all day over what Auburn and Mississippi State are putting out there at quarterback this year. So it's that is a fascinating game to me. But another one we mentioned.
I mean, well, at the same time, one more note on Auburn with that is we've also pointed out they're returning so much otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's another factor that could outweigh the quarterback situation. But I mean, you need somebody leading your offense to win a game. So.
Auburn might have to win that game with defense, which they could. But I'll tell you this. We talked about Ohio State. Ohio State, Bama, and Notre Dame all have QB questions. Those
and
are
a lot
three
of
of
them
your top
I
five
was looking
teams.
at the notes on this. A lot of them were 50-50 battles as well.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a true standout situation with, you never know. They could have two really, really solid quarterbacks and now they have one really solid backup. But and I love the stat of that a new quarterback facing a number one team hasn't won the game in the last 20 years.
That's wild.
So yeah, it is a pretty wild stat. I mean, Sayan does have the benefit of playing on his home turf in a stadium like the Shoe, which should be an insane environment. But yeah,
odds
not in his favor.
Sayan, who left Bama when Kalen DeBoer got there.
Yeah.
So here's something fascinating. We're going to find out so much about so many national title contenders this weekend at the QB position.
Because we have some good games this weekend. It's just not a bunch of it's not a bunch of cupcakes.
Like, let's think about this.
Except for A&M, but
yeah. Well, I mean, you guys get a cupcake next week, okay?
I mean, I don't know. I also don't know if I completely call UTSA a cupcake. It should be a cupcake, all things considered. But, I wouldn't overlook them. So
I think, we're in total agreement there. They better not overlook that team is capable of mucking it up to where you look up and you go, but look.
Like, what's going on here?
Or A&M looks really impressive, and you still better tap the brakes and just say, hey, the real test comes in 2 weeks against Notre Dame. This is, they need to build up to that. That goes without saying. What's going to be fascinating this weekend? Alabama and Ty Simpson play Florida State. Notre Dame, that is a QB battle right now between Minchie and Carr.
I think Carr was named the starter.
Carr was named the starter. That went up until when? Like a couple of days ago.
Yeah, it was very recent.
He's going to get tested. You might see some Minchie as well against Miami on the road. We mentioned Ohio State. We mentioned Sayan. We mentioned Arch. Nussmeier, to me, is an interesting test because he was a bit of a roller coaster last year. Does he go carve up Clemson, or does he throw those 2-3 picks? And do we start going wondering? So there's a lot of and we mentioned Auburn. A lot of teams, forget about Auburn. We're talking about title contenders. A lot of title contenders, we are going to learn a ton about their long-term viability this weekend. It's not the end of the world for anybody, but there are going to start to be some answers to what we've been asking questions about the whole offseason. Really interesting stuff.
Yep, I think so. And it's what we've been talking about for the past however many weeks of just all the unknowns at the top of the quarterback position. I mean, I'd rather be in a situation where you have a quarterback that started a couple games. But I mean, you never know. You could have those players that are standouts from the start.
We're wrapping fall camp here, and we're going to say 3 key takeaways. Just give a couple of key takeaways for each team real quick. The Aggies and Horns. I'll start it off, I guess, with mine, and then I want to hear yours on Texas from everything you've heard and read. And I'm sitting here watching this, and I go, look, here are my 2 biggest things. Marcel Reed has, and you've mentioned this more than once, he's got so much more in the way of weapons, and I think more so than people realize, because people outside of College Station don't know anything about.
He's got Le'Veon Moss back too, so.
He's got Le'Veon Moss back. He's got Reuben Owens back, who missed all last year except for the bowl, basically. You've got Jamarian Morrow. I'm just telling you, for fans of other schools, if you're an Aggie, you've heard this name a lot lately. He is going to be an absolute stud. He's going to force his way onto the field. And then at receiver, that is the biggest receiver, tight end. Those are the 2 rooms that look so much different, so much better, so much more explosive. And leading the way are guys Casey Concepcion, the NC State transfer, Mario Craver, and Ashton Bethel-Roman. And I think what they provide, Amanda, is this. It's that vertical passing game that was non-existent for A&M last year. It's getting behind the defense when those safeties come up to stop, like you said, Le'Veon Moss, or to stop Marcel Reed in the quarterback run game. You have guys with real speed and that can go find and get the football. That has been sorely lacking, not just last year, but really since, through the 6 years of Jimbo as well. This is real home run speed and over the top, and I think you'll start seeing it this week. And that's number one. And my second one is just this. The Aggie defense looks like a defense that is in year 2 in a system. And you've talked about the importance of continuity and keeping Kwiatkowski there in Austin versus turnover at Ohio State heading into this game. With A&M, you're now going into year 2 in a defensive system, and you brought back a ton. I think they bring back 8 starters. You're seeing it. And that is my second biggest takeaway. They just look like a more confident team flying around. Everyone from the known commodities to a guy like Des Ricks, who was a 5-star corner transfer from Bama, had his ups and downs last year. He looks like he's, ready to turn a corner. And there's a few guys I could say that about. It's experience in the system.
Yeah, as for Texas with fall camp, I got a couple notes on it. I mean, I think we've obviously talked about the O-line extensively and the concern with the O-line. I think it's too early to have just exceptional concerns about the Texas offense as a whole, especially since, earlier this week, Michael Taft said in an interview, he said that Arch Manning was tearing up the defense. And can't tear up the defense if he doesn't have the tools around him tearing up the defense, which I also wanted to point out. I feel like Arch Manning and Marcel Reed are in a very similar situation where we saw Marcel Reed struggled last year because of the tools around him weren't successful like they should have been.
Yeah.
I think Arch Manning's in a very similar situation this year, especially with offensive line question marks. But they're going up against one of the best defensive teams in the country in practice. So if they're struggling during a scrimmage, it's because they are going up against one of the best defensive units in the country. You expect them to probably struggle a little bit, but if they're getting their wings under them, I think that's a positive outlook. I don't think there's reason to be exceptionally concerned with the offense, though Sark did say in an interview recently that is his major point of concern as well. It's just they're very, very thin in about O-line depth. But he did point out he doesn't know of any team, this was his quote, "I don't know if you ever have 10 O-linemen that you feel good about." His sweet spot is about 8, and he says very few teams have 10. So something to just note in that situation. So we'll have to see how that pans out. The other thing that I think hasn't been talked about quite as much is special teams for Texas and the new kicker we have in the system. Bert Auburn I think he went to transfer to Miami, something like that.
Yeah.
But new kicker in the system, Mason Shipley from Texas State. Texas left so many points on the board last year in the form of field goals that should have been made. I think we went through the numbers. I think it was something like 33 points, close to that. And there were a couple field goals that if they had been made, they were very makeable field goals. I think one of them was pretty long, but one of them was very makeable in the SEC championship game. Texas would have won the SEC championship game, which is just mind-numbingly frustrating.
Especially for a veteran.
Yes, especially for a veteran who had, I think, something closer to like an 80-something% success rate the previous year, and he just plummeted last year. Like 2023 was a much better season for Bert Auburn, but last year was not pretty, and it cost Texas. You don't want to say that just the kicker costs the games, but that's an integral piece of the team when it matters the most, especially when you're playing other very, very good teams. So I think if Texas sees improvement in that category, I think that could be very critical for these really, really close matchups, especially when they're on the road, like the SEC championship game in Georgia, where they basically have a home field advantage because it's at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's another takeaway of just having a more successful special teams unit.
Camp development at A&M that nobody talked about too. There's a kicking battle going on. They've got a third-year returning starter in Randy Bond, but Zirkle transfer from Georgia, Kerrville Tivy product. I wrote about this last week. No one's talked about it at all, I don't think, on this beat, but that's an actual, that's a real life battle going on. And it's not because Randy Bond has, he hasn't had the struggles that Bert Auburn did. And it's just because this is just iron sharpening iron out there right now. It's a good development. It's a positive development. It's going to be interesting to see who wins it out. But I think there's a real chance for Zirkle to kind of come out of nowhere on that one. Moving on real quick, and this is our last segment before our fun stuff, but all conference teams came out this week. We've talked about a lot of these. We've talked about a lot of these players. The all SEC team that came out, it was the coaches poll, and you and I had some great discussion about it that we wanted to bring onto the show. And I thought, for me, a little bit of snub job for that Aggie offensive line on the first team. They did get a lot of love on the others.
They showed up strong in that second team, though. I
mean,
they
did.
You got plenty of them there. And I think this is the same type of thing with preseason rankings in general. You can kind of toss them all up there at this point. I mean, second team is still, they're gonna do you some good. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, because I was comparing the media day poll with this one, how many players that were in the media day poll for Texas that were not in this preseason ranking. Because I mean, Texas lost a lot in the preseason rankings if you compare the two in like the second team, and you pointed this out as depth issues.
Well,
I think
wait,
whoa. You didn't want to talk about this.
I know, I didn't.
You tried to call out depth issues. I think it's just learning more about all these other teams. I don't think it takes away from anything that the Texas has.
So here's what I meant. Here's what I meant by it. I didn't mean that Texas doesn't have depth. I meant when you're trying to win a national title, okay? So that's when you're trying to win a national title. I'm looking at it going, you got to have a bunch of star players, right? You have to have the whole team, but no one's ever won it in modern football really without a handful of true stars at the top, playmakers on offense, game changers on defense. And I was just saying, when I didn't see very many at all on that second and third team, I was asking you.
There's not many Georgia players on that second team.
You went through and did that. You're right. And they're in Georgia, the numbers, I get it. I think there were 6 Longhorns total. Maybe one other team had 7 that I didn't even think was. I think Bama maybe had 7, but like not as many on the first team, which kind of ties into my who's a star thing and not. I think the Aggies had 4 total, 3 of them O-line.
I mean, the end of the season polling is what matters anyways.
Yeah. So do you think there was a snub on the Texas side? The only guy I truly think should be on here for A&M, like that wasn't, and I just think people are just, I think because it's such a glamour position, there's so many names at the top. I think Casey Concepcion, with what he had done at NC State coming into the league, should be a guy that he will, I think he will be on one of those teams, and he should have been. And maybe you move an Aggie O-lineman on there into that first team in place of one of the O-linemen from somewhere else.
I think the snubs, I mean, I was just comparing these beforehand. Was Trey Moore on there?
I don't think so. He might have been a second teamer.
Oh, there was nobody on the second team for Texas, I don't think.
Your third team defense.
Well, especially for special teams. Oh, wait. I take that back.
Trey Moore was. He was third team defensive end.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, people can be critical of this all they want. My snub is Arch Manning. I think he could have at least earned the third team quarterback spot. There's unknowns, but there's also unknowns with, is DJ Lagway going to stay healthy? I mean, he was already getting banged up in fall camp.
Yeah.
So, and like you talked about Nussmeier last year, having some ups and downs, especially against A&M. But yeah, I think there's a lot of unknowns with the quarterbacks this year, so I feel like you can throw Arch in there at least on. I don't know if I put him as a first team because I don't think you know enough about him at all for that. Yeah. But I think I could swap him out with DJ Lagway in that. But DJ Lagway, very, very high upside with him. It's just the health issue is
probably the two guys with the highest upside, if we're being honest. Those two, to me, stand out. Just physical upside. Those two just physically and what they can do at that position. I think that's a really reasonable take over there,
Yeah.
Amanda.
I'm not
That's
saying
a new
he should
shirt
be
for you.
first team, you know.
Yeah, no, or you're not saying Heisman winner. You're not anointing him for like.
But I mean, there's all this hype around
could
him
do that
in
this year.
general.
Yeah.
Why is the hype not translating to this poll? You're going to hype him up outside of it, but you don't want to translate it to the preseason poll. It just doesn't track either way.
Well,
you know what?
coaches.
I'd rather it be underestimated than overestimated at the end of the day. And preseason polls don't even matter that much as it is.
And DJ Campbell should be on there. We did a little research. You and I dug in on that one, and definitely the most accomplished returning starter. A&M returns 5 starters. Texas returns 1, but some more experience. Really 3 guys with legit experience. But DJ Campbell is a guy that should be a high-round NFL pick.
So he's got that first team spot.
All right, let's run through some predictions and then close it out with our usual but season prediction type things.
Predictions.
All right, we're going to end with what we think the records are. So give me your Longhorn defensive and offensive MVP. We'll do this real quick. We've got our picks already, and then we'll move on to a couple other categories. Defensive MVP, offensive MVP.
Defensive MVP, Mookie, Michael Taft.
Okay.
I mean, easily. I just think he's a man on a mission this year. He didn't go to the draft. He stayed another year. He's a story you kind of have to love if you love football. The walk-on that earned the scholarship and is now one of the best players and biggest leaders on this team.
Yeah.
It's a storyline you love, and I think this is a year for him, a major year, and he's just the way he's acted. He's just a man on a mission. And I think he can really improve even more and be very, very disruptive to a lot of offenses. Offensive MVP, I feel like Wingo is set up to have a breakout year.
Wow.
One of the top returning wide receiver he's the guy right now, the top returning wide receiver. And that being said, if the connection is there, that could lead Arch Manning to also being an offensive MVP. If he can really I feel like if Arch Manning can connect on a lot of those bigger plays that a lot of times Quinn could not connect on. Quinn connected on the big plays in certain moments. You look at the Arizona State game with Golden, you look at that Alabama game, he had those flashes, but if Arch can have that consistency with these receivers, and there's a lot of young, really good receivers on this team, I think Arch also has a shot at offensive MVP.
Okay, I'm going to go for A&M defensively. I'm going to go with Cassius Howell, the defensive end. I love what they've got at corner right now. Will Lee came to mind. Torrin York, obviously a captain, but I'm going Cassius Howell, the defensive end. I just look at his last 3 games last year with a first and second rounder in front of him at the end, how productive and disruptive he was, and that includes the Texas game. That includes that loss. The defense made some plays, and he was at the forefront of it. So I'm going to go with Cassius on defense. And then offensively, this was a tougher one. Can I say, Amanda, that I think Le'Veon Moss is their best offensive player, but I think Marcel Reed is going to be the most valuable player on offense.
That kind of makes sense in the same sense that I was saying Wingo could be the offensive MVP, but Arch Manning probably the most, maybe reverse that. I don't know.
It's reversed, but
same idea.
I just think Moss.
2 critical pieces that have to work together to be successful.
And I think they'll bring him along throughout Notre Dame and then really have him ready for Auburn and SEC play. So, and they've got plenty of backs to kind of, let him come along to where he's ready to be unleashed when it matters most. So it might not be the numbers that some of these other All-American running backs put together. So I think Marcel, though, I've been watching the way he's throwing the football. I think he's going to surprise people and make that jump. He's my offensive. What about newcomers of the year real quickly, on one for each team?
Newcomers of the year, I think I put 2.
Did you?
I put an offensive and a
Okay, let's do that. I know mine. I'm ready.
I think I put Hosea Sharma up there.
Defensive tackle.
Yeah. These stats: 6'4", 356 pounds.
Come on.
Freshman.
Absurd.
I think he could really, really make an impact from what I've seen the reports out of fall camp, just from how he looked at fall camp coming out.
And a big need.
He is a brick house. Other one, offensively, Parker Livingstone. I think it's another interesting wide receiver situation you have going on there. I know you didn't like somebody else's take on the Arch to Parker connection quite as much, but I think there's a pretty good upside there.
Yeah, there is. And he was a stud in high school. They kind of took him. I feel like that was kind of a quick developing recruitment. But you went and watched that tape and immediately went, okay, this guy's got real talent. He can go find and get the football. So some of those deep balls maybe. My newcomers of the year for A&M offensively, I mentioned Concepcion. That's really my pick. But to name another name, Ashton Bethel-Roman is just a name that people around the SEC, I think he's going to turn in some long over-the-top touchdowns. Kind of take your pick at receiver. But I'll go with Ashton Bethel-Roman. And then because Concepcion is kind of a known commodity. And then defensively, I'm going to say, because they return a lot on that defense, I'm going to go with, it won't put up a bunch of numbers, Amanda, but I'm going to go with Tyler Onyedin from Iowa State. He was a D tackle, had a terrific year 2 years ago, was used a little differently last year, and I think they're going to use him more like A&M, like Iowa State did 2 years ago. But kind of like you, an interior defensive lineman is going to be my guy. And neither one of those guys are going to put up big numbers, but they're going to be breakout newcomers for the Aggies and Longhorns. And then finally,
bold predictions.
Let's get your one bold prediction for each team.
Okay, my first one for Texas, the offensive line stands up. I think that there's more experience than people assume in this offensive line, even if there are not a lot of starters returning. I think you can look at players like Cole Hudson as an example for that. I think this offensive line gives Arch the time he needs. I don't think Arch needs as much time as Quinn, and I do think Arch is much more mobile, so that will that's the give and take you have there with a little bit less experienced O-line. Now for A&M, you'll like this one. I think A&M beats the 8-4 allegations. I think they surpass the Texas 8-4. I think, but it's just barely. I think it's 9-3. Okay. Leading into our last segment. Okay. But
my bold,
do think it's a good team this year. So
I do too. And I think it's a better team, but on a better schedule. We'll talk about that in a second. One bold prediction for me, my bold prediction for Texas A&M is that they put a top 20 offense on the field, which I think would surprise people outside, even some A&M fans, I think. I think Marcel in this passing game, to go with the returning O-line in the run game, I think they have a top 20 offense and a top 30 defense. I think both sides of the ball.
Bold.
Yeah, I think
especially
both
looking
sides.
At that defense last year.
Yeah, I think they make a big jump defensively. I think so. Both sides make a big jump. And then for Texas, I think the bold prediction for me is that they win in Columbus and in Athens. And I still think they stumble somewhere, which is fine. I'm not going to predict them to win the SEC, as you know, but I think they win both of those games. Okay. I don't think they go undefeated in the regular season. I know that doesn't seem to add up. This is the SEC grind gauntlet that I'm talking about.
But I thought it was an easy schedule, Billy.
It was an easy schedule last year. It is much more difficult this year. You have
Okay,
to.
I'm going to go find a tweet of yours that said it's still a light schedule.
So remember
and
that
follow
Michigan thing I said, and remember this one. I don't think you can find me saying it's a light schedule this year. I do not. You can clip it with this clip. You could get 2 clips of me contradicting myself. I don't think you can. It's not happening.
Okay.
So
okay, we'll
that's
see.
a challenge.
We'll see.
And now, with that said, I think they win in Athens and Columbus. And imagine you and the entire fan base if they win in Tuscaloosa, in Ann Arbor, in Columbus, and in Athens in a 3-year stretch. Congratulations. I don't think they're going to win the whole thing. I'm picking Bama to win the SEC. So those are my conference champs. My playoff teams out of the SEC, I think, are Bama, Texas, Georgia, and A&M.
Okay.
You laugh. Now, I hope there's your bookmark. There's your bookmark. That's it. You say you avoid.
I like it. I like
you
the
say you
confidence in your
avoid
own
them.
team.
You say you avoid the bookmarks. I'm not the only person that
I
has
didn't
predicted
put it in
that.
writing. I mean, I appreciate the confidence
This
in your
is
own team.
actually recorded. Your genuine reaction was to bust out laughing. So we
I think
have
a
that.
lot of people would have the same reaction as me.
Okay, let's go on to finally.
I mean, you're not the only one who has made that prediction. I think A&M just misses
You have
the
them at
playoff.
9-3, and you don't know what I'm going to predict them to go yet either. So get
Okay.
ready.
Okay.
You ready
Do we
for
want-
it? I'll
okay,
start.
Let
9-3.
me do my SEC teams that I
Okay.
think make the playoffs. I think Texas, I think Alabama, and I think Georgia, and I think A&M's first out.
You think only
Similar-
3 make it?
Huh?
Do you think only 3 make it, or do you think there's a 4th team
I think
in
only
there?
3 make it in.
Okay.
I think it's a situation where you've lost 3 games, but you feel like you're snubbed because a team of a lesser conference gets in with a better record. I think it could look like that situation where, I mean, I could even be saying at the end of the year, A&M fans should be pissed. Like I was saying in 2020,
You are.
A&M fans should be pissed because they should have made the college football playoffs.
Back when I was like, who the hell is this person that keeps checking everything I say?
I need to find the picture I took from after you blocked me where I printed it out and stapled it to my desk at Dave Campbell's Texas Football.
I had enough. I was like that.
I take pride in this. This is my new office decor.
I'm like, she's not, I don't want her correcting me. Let me just talk, please.
Okay.
All right. So, no, I meant back then. I was like, let me just talk unchecked, please. Block her. We don't need the. So here's.
Let me just yap without anybody holding me
no
accountable.
accountability. Exactly. Here's the deal. You and I are this far apart in what we're thinking. You didn't realize that when you reacted. I think A&M. I think there are a handful of teams that go 9-3, whether that's South Carolina, LSU, A&M, Florida. So like, my prediction is like 3 of those teams, maybe even a 4th, like a Tennessee or a Missouri, go 9-3. But I think A&M might, to get to 9-3, might have to beat either LSU or Missouri, Florida, South Carolina. I think that little group of head-to-heads in that path, I mean, that's my prediction for the Aggies, is 9-3, just like you. But I think they get in as a 4th SEC team at 9-3. So we're actually not far apart.
We are very close. I don't think the concept of A&M getting into the playoffs is funny. I think the way you say it is funny, like you're scared to say it.
I know. Listen, it doesn't feel right, but I'm not jumping them all the way up to 10-2 this year. I do think that's possible. It's possible for about 5 SEC teams outside of the what people, really Texas and Georgia. Let's not forget, Bama is still trying to go from 4 losses.
Oh no, I have Bama high up on my list for this year.
So to me, in Texas, I've got them going 10-2, 11-2, 11-1, and lose the SEC title.
Okay.
I want to say 10-2 though. That's like they were 11-1 last year.
I mean, they've been on a constant upward progression. You could say they stabilized last year with a singular conference loss, similar to what they did in 2023 with a singular loss to OU in conference, but they went on to win the Big 12 championship. You'd also make the argument this is a more difficult new conference, so the 11-1 looks a little bit better than the 11-1 in the Big 12. I think they
10-2. There's mine. 10-2. Go ahead.
Okay. Mine is 11-1. I think they have a loss either at Georgia, Ohio State, or a weird flub like Florida.
Yeah.
I think it's one of I could see them winning on the road. They have been road warriors in the past couple seasons. But I see a weird flub for a team that shouldn't have been overlooked.
Yeah.
As far as A&M goes, I see 9-3 with losses at Texas, and then either LSU or Notre Dame. I think one of those is one. And then I think a weird flub as well.
Yeah.
That's one that you wish you should have gotten, like a South Carolina, Florida, something like that.
Yeah, something at home. Maybe they don't run the table at home. Okay, and then finally, let's have our fun before we run. That rhymed. What do you have this week for us? Whether it's moral victories or moving goalposts, it kind of fits whatever has happened each week of which direction you want to go with it. But which one do you have this week? And I don't know. I'm not ready for this.
The moral victory for this week is the response. I think we already chatted about this for a bit. The response you gave to the tweet our friend Peyton sent out about the picture that Ohio State put out saying, elite college football pick for anyone not in those fan bases, coming from someone who hates one of those teams. The team that happens to be on the ground in that picture. And also, it really wasn't that badass of a picture as far as college. You have seen many more better college football pictures. The Ohio State player is just standing up. He's not doing anything offensive to the Texas player. I think it could have been, I do like the back and forth. I think it's funny, but I think that's your moral victory of, Texas is on the ground, but they were playing in a Cotton Bowl and A&M wasn't.
Here's the problem. You say moral victory. Depending on what happens Saturday in the Horseshoe, that moral victory might be short-lived, and I know what's coming. I know.
Yes.
So, I think I felt, honestly, I don't think you're wrong. I think there's better college. There's a million of them better. I think that it was something to do with the black and white standing over a fallen opponent kind of got me. It wasn't. Yeah, there's a million better. So.
Do you think they'd post that if Colin Simmons does not post the shared Julian Sayin on his Instagram story?
Yeah, probably, because I think we live in an age, Amanda, where these social media people that work for these teams just kind of run reckless. It's like the coaches have way too much going on to where they have to do something really stupid to get on the head coach's radar. So they kind of have like creative freedom. So they just shoot their shots whenever they can, and sometimes it's hilarious. It's really funny with, like, if you look at the A&M Texas rivalry this year in the other sport, there's a lot of fun back and forth, like, where it's like, oh, wow, it's like headshot there's one, like, it's fun. But in football, I would be scared to cross the line with some of these head football coaches if I was just a social media person. Where the head coach goes storming through the building to get to their office. But I don't think that one got to that point. But yeah, okay. I need to say it? Do we need to create another shirt? Because I know she's sitting there listening. I know Peyton was right. Okay.
Yeah, Peyton always is right, isn't she? Anyways, we've got to move on to the favorite segment, retweet or delete. This one has a theme. I had a couple that I figured I needed to use before this football season comes to a head, as these are somewhat of a theme of last season. So let's get into them. So first tweet is August 5th of 2024. So around this same time last year. It's a response to me. It's almost like you're trying to make me admit I'm biased in my takes. Sark's trajectory was simply the past season. Ewers was great in the games you mentioned, but not so much in others. Would you say Sark's trajectory was still simply the last season in the Big 12?
No. It's one season in the SEC now and the last season in the Big 12. So that was This is one of these interesting ones, though, where
I mean, the Ewers part, I think you can also. Ewers was very regularly injured. That was his downfall. His oblique was probably much worse than we all came to know than it was last year.
I'm not a Ewers hater. I never was. I've actually, I respect his game. I think he's super likable. You could tell in that locker room, in that program. I've always liked watching him throw the football, but I wasn't wrong about him. And it wasn't you, it was not you, but when Texas fans were having him in New York for the Heisman and as a top 5, top 10 pick, I just didn't see it, and I know the injury held him back. So that part of it, and the part about Sark, here's the deal: you ended up being right.
Well, no, I don't think it's that I ended up being right because you were wrong in that initial tweet as it was, because in Sark's first season, he went 5-7. What was his trajectory for the next season? It was 8-4. What was his trajectory for the next season? It was, as we know, winning the Big 12 championship. So those 3 seasons combined are already a trajectory. And the trajectory just continued into the SEC.
Okay. I stand corrected. That is true. I didn't think I was wrong for saying there was no trajectory. I didn't think the trajectory would carry over. It did.
Even with our really, really easy SEC schedule.
Move on to the next one. Let's go. I don't think you can top that, but let's go. Let's see what you got.
All right. Okay, this one's
I
from
really
July.
wanted to defend that one. I really wanted to defend it when I thought I
Told
could.
you. I should have been a lawyer. Next one, July 31st, 2024. So a couple days prior. Also a response to me.
A couple days prior, so I was like really on one that week.
You were on one. You were feeling high and mighty.
I was angry preseason. I'm like feisty.
I honestly don't even want to know how much you've got bookmarked and ready to go if the Aggies stumble this year, especially if they lose to Texas, in quotes, which they won't at home, by the way.
I'm confident.
If they stumble, how many times did they stumble?
4 in the regular season.
Okay.
I didn't
I was
mean
thinking that one's a delete.
Yeah, I thought A&M would win at Kyle Field entering last season. I did. But that just,
You know, when there's a lot of silence after I read these, I know it hit a nerve somewhere.
It hit a nerve because I just wish they would have won to back up my tweet. That's all. Could you have just won the game just so this didn't happen? I'm fired up. I'm trying to predict, and I think A&M was not far off of what I thought. I think Texas was a little better than where I thought they'd be last year. But I also schedule, but whatever.
Oh yeah. Do we need to go back to last week?
Do you have anything else, or do you just have 2 this week?
Yeah, I got 4 this week.
Okay, go.
The next one.
You're really unloading the fight, like you're.
Yeah, I have
this
to
is like
use
house
these before
cleaning.
the season starts.
Okay.
June 10th, 2024. So month prior. Aggies in year 1 under a new coach should be much better by season's end. Therefore, the Texas game might be noticeably easier than Notre Dame in game 1. Horns with a couple losses and the shine is off. This you just tweeted out blatantly. It wasn't even a response to anybody. You didn't even have to put this out there. You weren't trying to defend yourself on it.
That was just in reply to nothing. That was a tweet.
That was a tweet.
Interesting.
At least I think it was. Maybe it could have been a reply to somebody who's deleted their account or something.
There's a lot of those. A lot of those weirdos just delete their accounts. They have these like grand announcements. I'm leaving Twitter. But no,
But the thing is, by season's end.
Yeah, it went the other way.
It was the annual Aggie roller coaster once again, because it did look really good in the beginning.
It did. And I've said a million times, I think it was a real solid, encouraging first year under a head coach in the SEC. But not a good ending. Not a good ending. In Texas, that was a big part of it. And look, neither one of those teams' games were easy for the Aggies. They lost both, but both tight games, particularly the Notre Dame game. That's one that, man, you look back and you think, You'd have loved to have had that one back. Tie game with 2 minutes left. The Irish went on to play for the national title. They weren't playing great ball early in the year. They lost the next week to Northern Illinois. Certainly that was the easier of the two games, without question. So that was, that was a bunch of whiffs in that one.
I think your hype train just needed to be a little bit more realistic with the first-year head coach, because it was not a bad season as far as a first-year head coach goes.
Yeah.
But it's almost like you had him making the college football playoff in year one, which I would not think that's realistic for most coaches.
You know what's interesting? You say that, and those tweets would indicate that, and then none of the actual predictions did.
Exactly.
So I need
they
to find that balance.
You didn't predict.
I need to find that balance. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Good
do.
point. Last one, I hope.
Last one.
You said
last
4.
one.
Please, God.
This is more of a deep cut.
Okay.
October 18th, 2022.
All right.
3 years ago. 2 more years of convincing yourselves you'll roll through the SEC when going 600 in league play is far more likely.
Okay. I have no idea what would make me say 600 of all the random percentages to pick, but yeah, honestly, if you want to go into my mind, you talk about a deep cut, I probably wanted to say 500, but said I'll just give them a little more than that, just to give myself some leeway so Amanda can't do this shit 3 years later.
But also, roll through the SEC, I mean, super tough conference, but apparently it wasn't.
See, this is where I get caught up, because I'll go down that road again, and you will, what'd you say, obliterate it? Was that the word you used the other day?
I'm not sure.
It was on Twitter. I wasn't a fan of you saying I've obliterated you.
Once.
Like,
the thing is, in 2022, Texas, or I don't know about 2022, but in the 2017 Texas team was coming into the SEC, even with last year's schedule, this was my point, they probably would have gone 5-7 or something like that.
Yeah.
Texas has a better team, and that is the fact of the matter. And then the narrative would be if Texas came in with a team like they had in 2017 and they go however poorly they do that first season, it'd be super tough conference, all that. No, Texas can just be a good team. Their schedule can be lighter than the likes of OU, who drew a really bad hand. But at the same time, that doesn't take away from the fact that Texas is, unfortunately for you, a better prepared football team than a lot of people assumed they would be entering the SEC.
Not just me. Will you at least give me that?
I said a lot of people assumed. Yes.
Can I ask us to stop this one and move on to our final thing, our real quick predictions?
Oh, that was the last retweeter delete. You're safe now.
Thank you. Okay.
No more trauma.
That was an official tap out this week. We're ready for the season. It doesn't even matter what Texas and Ohio State do. I need the season here. We need games to discuss, and they are here. Here we go.
You have like 5 more sleeps, right?
Yeah. So let's get our quick. We're going to do this every week. We're going to call it quick picks. It's going to be quick.
Oh, I don't think I even picked my quick picks, so this might just be
perfect.
Tough.
We'll do it live. We've got 2 we've already talked about. Okay. When it's a spread of more than 17 or more than 2 touchdowns. Wait. If the spread is more than 10, we're going to pick spread. So that is not the case with Texas and Ohio State. So I think we both picked the Longhorns, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We both picked Texas. Do we both agree very close games?
I think it's one of those games that Texas had a few of last year where it's a close game, but it's not really as close as you think it was. I think it could be a situation like with A&M where A&M really had a shot at the end, but there's some kind of crazy defensive goal line stand, so the difference is a bit higher than it seemed it should have been. I think it's something like 21-13.
Oh, wow.
I think it's a low scoring. I think the defense holds pretty well. I think Ohio State maybe gets in 1 touchdown, a couple field goals, and Texas has some success on offense, even though Arch is a little bit untested. So a close game, but not quite as high scoring of a game.
I think I'm going to go Texas 27-20.
Okay.
I think Ohio State, they might have a hard time scoring I don't trust.
Yeah, that's why I
think
put
I
him at
don't trust
13 because
saying.
I didn't even want to give him 2 touchdowns is a thing.
I don't think I trust saying. And I like Matt Patricia a lot. We've talked about it before. I've got to know him a little this offseason at the Super Bowl, really rooting for him, like him. But I don't care how much talent you have. You lose 8 starters on the side of the ball and go against that type talent that Texas has at skill spots in game 1. It is a tough ask. I think this is going to be a great Ohio State defense this year. I don't know that it'll necessarily be great this weekend. So with that, with A&M and UTSA, the line will move or whatever. Let's just call it 20. Do you think the Aggies win by 20+ against the Roadrunners?
I think they have to win by 20+. I think that's a necessity. So, yeah, I think they do it. Okay. I think they do it handily. They should. And if not, we're going to have it's going to be a fun recording next Sunday.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I think I'm right on that number, and I think A&M with a late score pushes it there. I don't think it's like a total blowout at all. I think UTSA will.
I think they wear them out a bit.
Yeah, I think they can wear. Yeah, I'm with you. I think they wear them out. And I think A&M hits big plays. I think that's going to be kind of a storyline to see A&M hit big plays against this team.
I mean, like Burns said, A&M has 100 players that can play, and UTSA has 40. So you wear them out a bit, even if it's a little close in the beginning. I think A&M could run away with it pretty much in the end.
I think UTSA makes some plays offensively to keep some drives going.
There's 2 birds brawling on my balcony. I'm sorry.
Roadrunners, dude.
One of them just smacked into my window.
At least it wasn't a roadrunner. That would be
Luna
a bad
is
sign.
Really freaking out right now.
Yeah, your cats are going nuts. Okay, let's rip through the other. So I've got we both have A&M covering. We both have Texas winning. Let's do the last 3. Let's start with LSU Clemson, just real quick. Battle of the QBs, battle of the Tigers, battle of the quarterbacks. It's at Clemson. LSU's played a lot of these neutral site type games. Mm-hmm. This one's at Clemson. I've been there. I've watched the game. I think that team's a lot tougher at home. I'm going Cade Klubnik and Clemson and that defense, not LSU's defense, to win it.
I think I'm going to go the opposite direction. I mean, I think I would not be surprised if Clemson wins this one as well, but I kind of want to give the credit of LSU really wanting to get the monkey off their back of these home openers. Yeah. And especially in an environment like this, I think an upset, I love an upset like that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's very close. I think it could even be an overtime situation because I feel like looking at it from what we know and what we don't know, could be a pretty even matchup. So I'd say I'm going like 35-20. Trying to think here. 35-32, 33, something like that. Somewhere in that range. The 30 range.
That would be a really hell of a season opener to watch those 2 quarterbacks go at it.
I think like an overtime. That's what you want on week 1.
I don't disagree with you. And Clemson's got to stop a streak. I'll take your score and I'll flip flop it. I like Clemson in that 31, 28, 27 range. So and then the last 2, Bama, Florida State, Castellanos, that former Boston College quarterback, now in Tallahassee. He is running his mouth about the Crimson Tide. So Ty Simpson, Alabama, new era there at QB. Last time he quarterbacked against a team from Florida, he looked really bad against South Florida. We haven't seen much of him since, but I like Bama to actually roll in that one.
Give me Bama all day.
Both have Bama rolling. Here's the fun one. If it wasn't for Texas, Ohio State, I think this would be right there with Clemson, LSU. Notre Dame, future A&M opponent, going down to Miami on the road to play the Hurricanes, and your boy Carson Beck, who you guys got real familiar with. Last time we saw him, he was getting tackled by Trey Moore and leaving that SEC title game. Now, he dated one of the Cavender twins. Now he's down there in Miami.
Really had to bring up his dating life, huh?
She left. He's still there. And
he's stuck there without a twin now.
They're loving what they're seeing from him, though. Maybe he's undistracted. But
I think I got to go Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame, I think they pull. I don't know. I could see Miami as well though with Carson Beck, but I think Notre Dame has more going for them as far as just regularity. Carson Beck in a new system. I don't know if I can bet on that quite yet until I see much of
true.
it.
That's a good
But
point.
yeah, I'm rolling with Notre Dame in this one.
I'm going to throw a changeup at you, and I'm actually going to say I think Carson Beck's a lot better quarterback than people think, and
Yeah.
I'm going to go Carson Beck over CJ Carr.
Yeah.
I'm
Say
going.
the unknown situation with Notre Dame. That's where we'll learn about it. At least we'll know something from this game.
So I'm going to go there, and I hate that because I don't think Mario Cristobal. Like, if I did my top 5, maybe one day we'll do this, my top 5 coaches outside of, say, the 2 teams we talk about, like my 5 favorites. First of all, I watched one of them this weekend, Lance Leipold at Kansas, but Marcus Freeman's on there as well. I think he's done a tremendous job. I think he's a rising star. I do not think Mario Cristobal is any kind of rising star. I don't think he's that good. But I'm picking Miami, Amanda, so there's my pick. We differ on 2 or 3 of them. It'll be fun. Game week's here. You got to get control of the cats and birds or whatever the heck else is going on.
I mean, it's about 30 minutes past dinner time. I have nachos sitting on the counter staring at me, meowing at me. So they do not let me not feed them. So
all right, well, we're going to have fun this weekend. Good luck in Columbus. Good luck to the Aggies here at Kyle Field, and we will have a lot to talk about next Tuesday.
Next week should be a fun one for maybe one of us. Maybe both of us. Maybe neither of us.
Moving Goalposts, sponsored by our good friends over at La Casa Tequila. Thank you guys for listening.